Buongiorno, good morning. Welcome to Jaxx Vane Studio Live number 28. Still working on the sailing simulator prototype. Lately, to be honest with you, things are not really going that well with the game in general. Actually, last Monday, after the stream, I was very close to give up on the sailing simulator, and that came basically after Sunday. I was a little bit disappointed. Sunday I had like just a day where I was just trying to play the game without really touching the code, just play it as a user, and I was playing with the new boat, with a classic boat, and having quite some fun with it, as much fun you can have with that kind of boat. And I was thinking, oh, now I'm going to take the catamaran and go around much faster, and it's going to be exciting. And what actually happened was that it was really difficult for me to control it. And then Monday I had pretty much the same experience, plus a couple of wrong behaviors, obviously wrong behaviors that the catamaran had. So yeah, Monday afternoon I was a little bit down and almost giving up on this project. The main problem is still the problem that I identified even before I even started working on this. But the more I work on it, the more it becomes obvious that the main battle for this game is that, especially when it comes to the catamaran, but the traditional boat has some other problems that probably are easier to identify and solve. But when it comes to the catamaran, we're still trying to get something that is fundamentally a team effort of driving this kind of boat, and trying to give that as a responsibility to the player. So what in real life is done by 2 or 3 people is now just thrown on the shoulder of the player, and the player is asked to impersonate, right, at the same time a team of people that are doing things that are wildly different, but they all come together to define what the boat is actually doing. So of course one might think, okay, so the original idea, let's just give the AI control of this or that, right? Especially when it comes to things like foils, right? You really can't give the AI control of it, because these races with these catamarans are won and lost on boat control. Right, they're not races that are won by tactics alone. I mean, everything goes into it, but the boat control and the ability to keep the boat on the foils, it's an essential part of it. So if you give this element to the AI, you get into this difficult gameplay situations where the AI, by definition, is not going to make mistakes if you don't want the AI to make mistakes, right? The problem is that if you fall from the foils in a race and you lose it because the AI made a mistake, generally speaking, players won't really respond really well to events like this, right? So you have to give them the perfect AI. By giving them the perfect AI that never falls from the from the foils, you pretty much remove the entire game. So is it possible to put the AI to do that kind of job? Yes, it is possible. Does it make sense from gameplay point of view? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because that's the entire point. It's like having a racing game with automatic steer or something like that, right? I know there are people that are out there and playing racing games with automatic brakes and all that bullshit, but that's definitely not the kind of product that I'm interested in. And the other big problem that I have is that the level of complexity from going from a situation where the AI is either controlling the sails or the foils to a situation where you have to control the sails or the foils is not a smooth progression. It's like a completely rewire, and you know, the jump in how hard is to play it is quite huge, quite substantial, right? It's like moving from a racing game that has ABS and traction control to a situation where you have to drive without ABS and traction control, right? Everything becomes, you know, you start to discover what the car is really doing, right? And those things are hidden by the traction control and the ABS. So yeah, so basically there is this fundamental problem of trying to convey this idea of try to give the player full responsibility of what in reality is done by 2, 3, 4 people, right? Depending on the boat. And that's very dangerous, right? Because if you end up with a game that is too difficult, then you're doomed, right? If I cannot come up with a solution that makes this game challenging but not impossible, then this game is doomed without even starting. So it's a very, very difficult situation, because the thing that I was noticing on Monday and these days working on it, although then as usual, you might know me, you know, yesterday I was like, no, I'm not having any of it, so I'm going to keep working and trying to find solutions. And I got the gameplay a little bit better, but the main point stands. The main point is that I've been driving this thing for a little bit more than 1 month now. And yes, it's true that the physics is always changing. The physics has bugs, so I have to deal with bugs when I'm driving. So everything is always changing. But the main point stands that after 1 month, more than 1 month, that I'm actually able to drive the catamaran, I can't say that I'm confident driving it. All right, and that says a lot about the game in general. If working 8 hours a day, almost every day, okay, it's not that I'm driving 8 hours a day, but you know, a big part of the work is to drive the damn thing, right? So if I drive the thing for, let's say, a couple of hours a day in total for more than 1 month, and I don't feel confident at all when I'm driving it, then you know, then we have a problem. That's what kickstarted, you know, all my doubts about, I mean, is this really a good idea? Am I wasting my time here? Am I trying to do something that, yes, you know, I can nail the physics, I can reproduce as many things as we have in reality, but am I going to end with something that is actually playable and fun to play, right? And right now, I don't really know. So yeah, so Monday and yesterday, I spent some times with Jaxx, with my wife, talking about this, about all these doubts about the game, and we end up with a solution that hopefully it will turn into something interesting, and it's the idea to branch out to something else and trying to do something else without stopping the development on this one. And this something else is something that is somehow connected to the sailing simulator, so it will retain some elements of it, but it will also allow us to, first of all, go a little bit more, explore a little bit the creativity possibilities. One of the things that got me tired of working in Kunos Simulazioni was the fact that for 20 years all I do is basically try to watch reality and try to come up with a way to replicate that reality, right? Video game development can be so much more than that, because you can really create your own reality and your own world, and you decide how much of the real world you want to have in your game. So instead of going in this direction where realism is everything, right? In the same sailing simulator is like, which is at the end of the day is really the definition of what a simulator is, right? A lot of people on the forum always have discussions about, is this a simulator or is not a simulator? My definition of a simulator is, first of all, is the attitude of the developer. Is the developer thinking that he's doing a simulator, right? So if he thinks he's doing a simulator, then it's a simulator, which doesn't mean it's a good simulator. But it's a simulator by definition. For me, a simulator is something where reality comes before gameplay, right? So if you have something unfortunate in real life, that will make your gameplay frustrating, but is then in real life, then you try to do it. You try to do it because you're trying to do a simulator. And if it is unfortunate for the players, well, tough. If you don't like it, go play something else. Oh, this car is too difficult to drive. Go play something else. That's the attitude, right, that you bring in. In this project that we want to branch out and try to do something different, we're going to try to start from some kind of premise that could make sense. It could have a base of realism, but we're also at the same time going to put gameplay as the first target. And hopefully we have enough shared code between the two projects that I can manage to work on both, and hopefully they can feed on each other. They can have users moving from one to the other, and use one to get introduced to some concepts that are part of the sailing simulator, that are necessary in the sailing simulator game, which is another big problem of trying to do a game about something that not many people are familiar with, right? I was an occasional watcher of sailing races, and obviously now I have an understanding of how a sailboat really works that I didn't have before starting to work on this game. I had absolutely no idea that you will, the major way to control, for example, the roll on the catamaran is your wings. And those kind of informations are probably going to be completely new for pretty much everybody that approaches this game, unless you are a professional sailor driving this kind of catamarans, right? So that will come as a sort of surprise for them, and there is a huge amount of information that needs to be acquired by the player in order to even understand what's going on, and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous, you know, because when it comes to things like cars or airplanes, cars, we all have pretty much a good idea of how cars work. Yes, of course, people that only watch race on TV, they have no idea about things like braking. They have no clue. The first time you bring somebody that is passionate about cars, maybe the guy has a good car, and maybe he likes to go fast on the Autobahn or whatever. The first time you bring this guy on a racetrack and you show him how to brake, the reaction is pretty, you know, the reaction is pretty a shocked one. Reaction of what it means to brake and how important and essential is the braking in a race car. So yeah, but in general, you have an idea of how cars work. Planes, yes, they are complicated, but once you have a joystick in your hand, everything becomes pretty much obvious, right? Where you know, you bang the joystick on one side and the plane does exactly the same thing, and you push the joystick forward and the plane does exactly the same thing, puts the nose down, right? When it comes to sailboats, it's not really that obvious, and it's not really that common for people to know this thing. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is what we're going to do. The new game is going to be crazy. I don't know when I'm going to start to work on it. Perhaps this week or probably next week. And you're definitely going to see it on the stream. And hopefully it's going to be fun. But, you know, that doesn't mean that I'm dropping the simulator. I'm still working on it. So yeah, yesterday, just a quick check. Yesterday I worked a little bit to mostly going back, fixing bugs. Nothing really, not a lot of new stuff to see. It's just really tweaking things here and there. I'm trying to understand, it's a bit too loud. I'm trying to understand really the requirements for balance on the catamaran, right? How and why, how to balance basically the size and the angle of the rear foil, right? Because the front foils are pretty obvious. So what I did is, right now I am a little bit slower than the Ghost, which is fine. The reason is that I just increased a little bit the drag on my foils in general. So I'm slightly slower. And right now I am quite happy with the behavior when I am at sort of low speed. As you can see, the boat is reasonably stable. I'm not fighting with it that much. I also increased the sensitivity of or decrease. I never understand how people talk about sensitivity of controls. But what I did is that basically I have to move the mouse more to turn the helm at a comparable size, at comparable rotation. So in general, my inputs are smoother. Also, the mouse wheel, I made the mouse wheel a little bit slower to react, so I can have a more fine control of the foil. So honestly, I don't know. I don't know if if it's me getting more used to it and getting better, or is the physics getting better, is very difficult to say. Very, very difficult to say. This is the part where I have my problems, right? This is the part, as we are accelerating, controlling the foils becomes really tricky, really, really difficult. So it's without doing, you know, the crazy Ivans that were happening during the last streams. You know, still some weird stuff, but I think I know what this is. Is basically, I guess it's some of the foils. I was reading that basically the main point is that once one of these rudders gets over a certain angle of attack, they should just stall and that's it. While right now my foil sort of stalls and then recovers, and I think this is the reason, for example, with this weird behavior. So what should happen right here is that the boat should just fall when I gave that, you know, big bang on the foil. So yeah, things are slowly improving. I cannot say I am super, you know, I cannot say I'm super happy about this, but this is what we have right now. Okay, so what we have today is I want to introduce pause and the possibility to step one frame on the replay, which is going to be useful for me to debug those kind of situations where I can just go back and see exactly what happened pause. Right now I can only go fast forward and rewind. I cannot really go and the thing that really annoys me the most is that when you're working on a racing simulation, it's a very mature environment, right? You have very good hardware. So if you have a good simulator and a good steering wheel, and when I say a good steering wheel, I don't mean a 1,000 euro steering wheel. I mean a Logitech G27. If you have something like that, if you get a professional driver and you let the guy try the simulator, he's going to do very well with it straight away. What really annoys me about this sailing simulator is that if you get a guy that is driving the catamaran for real and you tell him, all right, there you go have a go with the mouse as a helm and the mouse wheel for the foils and the keyboard for the sail, with no feedback of what the boat is doing and so on, I'm pretty sure it's gonna do terribly. You know, he might know the theory behind it, but the controls have nothing to do with what a real control it is, right? So, you know, how you go from literally hold, you know, the line of the mainsail in your hand, feeling the resistance that wing or sail has, right? To press W and S on a keyboard with no feedback. You have no idea what the fuck is happening, you know, no idea, right? It's not that I don't know. I don't know. I still have to. This is going to be interesting once this thing go ahead and I start to release demo versions for people to try. It will be interesting to get the first feedbacks from real sailors and see how they're doing. But my impression is that they are going to do really bad. You almost need levers with force feedback. Yeah, that's exactly what you need. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. If you think about it, if you have a motor with a rope attached to it, right? And the motor is trying to give feedback that way, right? You either can pull it easily, right? Or the motor is fighting you, right? Yeah, I mean that's the way, right, Remco? I mean that's the way. That when Dave Kemmer released Grand Prix Legends, there was no steering wheel, there was no pedals. You know, he was playing with a joystick, right? If I remember correctly, he was playing with the joystick and some custom built pedals. So, and he did the Monaco replay. I think it was actually David Kemmer driving it, and it was with the joystick. It was with the joystick, no force feedback, nothing. And that product started to create a community and a market for this kind of stuff. So who knows? I think it's difficult. I think it's very unlikely that we will reach that point. But the other interesting things is that in general, you can expect people involved with sailing, let's say they don't have many problems with money. So the kind of guys that can spend €6 for a coffee in Portocervo, perhaps they won't mind spending €1,000 for a dedicated hardware for sailing simulation. Who knows? So replay, pause. Yes, okay. And there is no way to get out from this, which is fine. So now the question is how I exit, because I want to do the functionality to step 1. So the question is, should I just re-click the same? Should I just re-click the same and use another key to go back in play mode? Or should I use another key to step, another one to do the play mode? Pause, play, pause, play. Ta-ta, ta-ta. I think I need this is useful if I really don't want to go one step, but I need a proper step. I'm having a brain fart? Yes, of course I'm having a brain fart. There you go. There you go. Brain fart of the day. Just make lop. We had our brain fart for the day. Yes? Hello? What did I do? Ah. Move forward a bit. Replay. Pause. step, 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 step. All right, it's working. The reason why this is very useful is if something bad happened, now I can go here and watch the physics debug and watch the values here. I can step through the replay and see what's going on, which is cool. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I think it's just that I don't want to do it. I hate to do things when I don't want to do it. All right, this works. So I think I'm gonna have lunch. Thank you guys. Maybe I will drop you to Team Baudet. Let me see if he's online so you can continue your discussion on programming languages. See you Friday morning, guys, for the next live. Ciao, ciao.